Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. This is exciting. We are holding in the middle of Dvar Malchus and Parshas Chaya Sara. We learned Seif or Perek Aleph and Beis, and we're holding Perek Gimel. Okay, so let's just give the quickest summary. In this talk, which was the last talk the Rebbe addressed to all the Kinnis Hashluchim or Ilami, the Rebbe says that when it comes to Shlichus, we have to realize that from time to time there are Shlichus updates. And at the time that the Rebbe was talking then in 5752 Tafshinun Beis, he said there's a Shlichus update. What's the Shlichus update? The Shlichus update that becomes the Shar, meaning not only is there something added to the Shlichus, but something that becomes the Shar, the main gateway through where all the other inyanim of Shlichus pass through, and that is that Avodah now is based on what the Friediger Rebbe and all this that has been said, that we finished all the work. So now the Avodah is to prepare, all the Shluchim have the Avodah to prepare their communities and all the people they come into contact with, to be ready, b'poyel mamish, to receive, to be makabel p'nei Mashiach tzidkein. That's the Shlichus. And then he goes on to explain that there is a special connection between Shlichus and Moshiach, because Moshiach himself is a Shliach. And he brings it from this, that we see that Moshe Rabbeinu refers to Moshiach. He says Hashem send in the messenger. Which messenger is it referring to? Referring to the one that he will send in the future, which is Moshiach. So we see from there that Moshiach is called the Shliach of Hashem. In what sense? He's the Shliach of Hashem to redeem the Jewish people. And then in that same Sif, in Sif Beis, the Rebbe further develops this and says that really, in truth, it was Moshe Rabbeinu. It's really the shlichus to redeem the Jewish people is really one long shlichus that begins with Moshe Rabbeinu and concludes with Mashiach, in the sense that Moshe and Mashiach are really one inyan. And as I brought from the Orach Chaim HaKadosh last week, that they're mamish, it's like one neshama. It's like Moshe Rabbeinu himself's power that is imbues Mashiach, and that's the power of the Geula. So it's really one shlichus that began with Moshe Rabbeinu, concludes. So this is the ultimate shlichus. Since Mashiach himself is a shliach, so we can understand that the inyan of bringing Mashiach is very strongly connected to shlichus. Okay, so that's what we laid the foundation in last week, and now we continue on in Perek Gimel. This will be understood. Now, in order to understand this, we need to really to understand why Mashiach is a shliach. We'll understand the concept of shlichus in the Torah, which the first time we find the idea of a shliach is this week in the parsha. Not this week, I mean, now we're Parshas Vayera, but the week that the Rebbe spoke is Parshas Chaya Sara, next Torah portion. Beginning with the first shlichus that is related to in the Torah, Barichus Bepratim, where the Torah tells us with great length, Beparsha Seinu, in our parsha, meaning Parshas Chaya Sara. What's the shlichus? Hashlichus Shalach Avram es Eliezer, the shlichus that Avram sent Eliezer limtzei v'la'aseh shidduch of Yitzchak benoi, to find the shidduch and to make the shidduch, to bring about the conclusion of the shidduch, the marriage match for Yitzchak his son. And then in the manner of how Eliezer executed this shlichus in the literal sense, b'shidduch Yitzchak v'Rivka, in the shidduch of Yitzchak and Rivka. Okay, so there was a shlichus. This is the first shlichus we find in the Torah, where one person is sending another person to do something on their behalf. V'yash makam lachker. Now there's place to investigate or to research or to question rather. Ma haya geder vadin shel shlichus Eliezer b'kiyum divrei Avram elov. When Eliezer is now appointed by Avram Avinu to fulfill that which Avram Avinu has requested of him to bring about the shidduch, we can question what is the status of Eliezer. How exactly do we define him? How do we define his status of what is he standing, and what's his role? What role does he play? What's the and which job? That you should take a wife for my son for Yitzchak. What exactly is your role? So I'm going to say now for a moment, if you can take a look on this page, there is quite a bit of footnotes over here, and so let me just share with you the ones that are important. When Eliezer goes and he finds Rivka, and then he brings her back to Yitzchak, Bechlal, there's an argument in the Rishonim regarding if Eliezer was actually Makadesh Rivka, other words, did he do the betrothal? Did he actually, like the kedushin that we would do when a chassan gives the kala a ring under the chuppah, so then she's legally married to him. And actually, there's a second stage of our marriage that's done immediately. It used to be done in 2 shots. We know kedushin was done at some time, and then later was done the chuppah, which brings about the conclusion that husband and wife can go ahead and live together. But but the main acquisition, if we can say, that makes these 2 individual people a couple is through the giving. The man gives the woman something of value. Okay, I mean that's the most accepted way of doing kedushin, is when the man gives the woman something of value. In our case, we give a ring. Now, when Eliezer was sent to bring Rivka, did he just bring her physically and then Yitzchak did the marriage, acquired her, or did Eliezer already execute the kedushin? So there's a machlokes. Tosfos holds that Eliezer actually did the kedushin and she became his wife. Others, there are some midrashim that imply that it's not this case, that she brought it to Yitzchak and Yitzchak did the kedushin. This whole question that is going to be discussed over here of how, what status did Eliezer have, the Rebbe says he is basing it, accepting Tosfos' view that Eliezer actually was Mekadesh Rivka. In other words, he betrothed her when Rivka was still in Padan Aram, when she was still there in Haran, Mesopotamia, far from Eretz Yisroel. She was legally already Yitzchak's wife. And then later he just brought her to Yitzchak. But she was already, she had the status of being married. She was a married woman already. She's a 3-year-old girl, but she's already a married woman. That is, the Rebbe is accepting that view. And then this whole talk that he's basing over here, and the question that he's going to have in the status of Eliezer, is after we accept already this opinion of Tosfos that the marriage happened. Okay? Now his question is, once we say that Eliezer did do the kedushin, which means he did marry a Rivka on behalf of Yitzchak, marry her, give her the kedushin and marry her to Yitzchak. The question is, still what role did he play? Was he a shliach? That's the meaning. Was he a agent? Which means that a person can appoint someone to do something on their behalf, and then the action of that individual, at least that, we're going to see it's possible even more than that, but the action of Mr. B, when Mr. A appoints Mr. B to be an agent on his behalf, so the action that Mr. B does is considered the actions of Mr. A. That's a shliach. So the question is Eliezer a shliach? Or maybe Eliezer was just a shatchen. Maybe he was just a matchmaker. If he's a matchmaker, how can he then, a matchmaker doesn't execute shidduchim, doesn't marry the kala on behalf, doesn't give the ring, doesn't do the kedushin. How can Eliezer do it? So he's going to explain that in Shulchan Aruch there is a concept called that a shatchen, we'll see soon, is able to finalize a shidduch. Could do it. But it's not, what's the difference if a shatchen is doing it? If a shatchen is doing it as a shatchen, not as an agent, it's not considered as if the person himself betrothed his wife, but it was rather someone else that did it on behalf of the person, but it's not as if he himself did it. So the difference is that the shatchen has far more of an independence, a beingness out, an independent existence other than a shliach. A shliach becomes almost like the extended arm of the mishaleach, of the one that's sending him. But a shatchen doesn't become the extended arm. He remains an independent person, but yet in that ability, he can be empowered to do something for someone else. That's the idea. And that's the question that he has over here. By the way, this idea that we see that we're accepting over here, that's for sure, that Eliezer was Mekadesh Rivka. He betrothed her. He did the act of the kedushin. So the Rebbe says we see that in this, that he gave her the rings. He gave her bracelets. He didn't give her a ring. He gave her a nose ring, gave her bracelets. So there is a medrash that says that it was the nose ring that he gave her as kedushin. There is another, but according to Tosfos, it was the bracelets that he gave her. And you see the Tosfos says that the minhag of being Makadish with, or the Rebbe says this, you see that the minhag of being Makadish with jewelry, with a ring, with a jewelry, goes back all the way to the first marriage, Yitzchak and Rivka, that he was already Makadisher with jewelry. You also see that by Yehuda and Tamar, that when Yehuda gave to Tamar his signet ring, there was also a Kedushin. Even though it looks like it was just some kind of a prostitution thing. It wasn't a marriage, but yet, I guess maybe Yehuda wanted to marry her, so it wouldn't be that he's just living with a prostitute. So in that sense, he gave her the ring, his chaisemes. Chaisemes is his ring. But al kapanim, you see that this is an ancient tradition to marry through giving jewelry. But that's just parenthetically. Going back to the question, we're asking the question over here, if we are now assuming that Eliezer was Mekadesh Rivka as a wife for Yitzchak, the question is, under what halachic criteria did Eliezer do that? So let's read it inside. So there is a question, he says, we can explain this in many ways. Umehem, number one, Eliezer shliach. Eliezer is a shliach, he's an agent, l'kedushin, to bring about the kedushin. Kedisa b'Tosfos, as I told you, stated in Tosfos. And in that sense, he can do it because sheshlucha shel adam k'moisai. So then he's considered as if he is the shliach of, now whose shliach is he, by the way? Avram Avinu was making him a shliach, but Yitzchak is an adult already. So if Yitzchak is an adult, then Yitzchak has to make the shliach, not because he's doing it on Yitzchak's behalf. So he brings in one of the footnotes, footnote 16, that Yitzchak appointed Avram as his shliach. Once Avram is now the shliach of Yitzchak, now Avram is continuing the shlichus to Eliezer. He goes into a whole question, can a shliach make another shliach? If a shliach can't make another shliach, in that sense, so then how can it happen? The Rebbe he brings from the Panim Yafis that since Eliezer was Avram's Eved, and an Eved is considered the gufa, he's considered like the body, Yad Eved ki Yad Rabbi, even more than a shliach. Because a Eved, a servant, a slave, a servant, doesn't have a being in his entire life, his entire existence for himself, so his hand is the hand of his master. So it could be that it's not considered a double shlichus, because Yitzchak is pointing Avram, but Avram is not appointing a shliach. Avram could make Eliezer a shliach, but it's more than shliach. It's like his mamish, his being, his hand, and that's how the shlichus can work. But al komponim, what do we have over here? The question is, in that case, Eliezer is fulfilling the capacity to be Mekadesh Rivka in the sense of him being a shliach. Shliach shaladim kamoisei. V'gam begeder shliach atzma yesh kama dargis. Now in the brackets, the Rebbe says, in general, shlichus itself, we appreciate that there are a few levels in how a shliach works. How the halachic ramifications of appointing an agent. The Rebbe says there are three possibilities in how agency can work. Kiyadu, as it is known, that ma'isa hashliach u'kamaisa ha'mishalech. The first and lowest level of shlichus is that the shliach is I am me and you are you. We're two different beings. It's just that since I appointed you as a shliach to do a specific act, the act that you are doing is considered my act, not your act. So in as much as that one act is concerned, it was considered my action, which I did through you, but it was my action. On a deeper level, there's a second level of shlichus, and the Rebbe says inside, Gam koyach ha'asiyah shel hashliach hu kamoisei dam ha'shalech. I take over your entire operating system. In other words, your entire koyach of asiyah. It's not just the consequence of the action is considered my consequence, but the power of action itself, the koyach ha'asiyah, the power of the human being has a power to affect physically, right? So that koyach of asiyah, that koyach of action, to do something, the entire koyach of asiyah becomes mine for that moment. But through the split moment of shlichus, it's almost like a part of you is me, not just the act, but the entire part of the pu'ula, the poil of the act, the effector of the act is also me. But only that power, not your intelligence is not me, your emotions are not me, the other features of you are not me, but one particular power of you becomes me, which means becomes the mashaleachs. Or a third level is that the shliach and the mashaleach become so intertwined and so unified that in the midst of that, during the time of the execution of the shlichus, the shliach his entire being is the Mishaleach. The Mishaleach, his identity becomes completely dissolved in the Mishaleach. So it's now the Mishaleach. It's as if the Mishaleach, the sender, is in that place and not the Shliach. So you see, in Shlichus itself, there's 3 levels. But the common fact of all these 3 levels of Shliach, on all 3, is that when you're doing, that the act is as if I'm doing it. That's for sure. The act is for sure as if I'm doing it. The question is, if it's only the act that I'm doing, or is it also the whole Pa'ula of Asiyah that's me, or is it my entire, that your entire being became swallowed up by the Mishaleach, by the one who sent you. Okay. But upon him, this is all giving us one side of the question. And that is Eliezer acting as a Shliach? Or Beis, Eliezer a begeder Shatchen, or maybe Eliezer is a matchmaker. And when we say a matchmaker, it doesn't mean only someone who gives suggestions, but over here the matchmaker is taking a greater role. Limtza Isha, number 1, he has 2 jobs. Limtza Isha liYitzchak, to find the wife for Yitzchak, loy betar shliach lekedushin, but he's not an agent to do the kedushin. Or maybe even shatchen lekacha. He's even playing a role more. He's a shatchen. He's a matchmaker that is given permission that if he finds the right one, and he's afraid that someone else is like when you sell someone to the marketplace, you want to make sure if they have the good one, you give them permission to buy something on your behalf. So. But it's not that you made them an agent to do so. You give them permission that if they decide they could do it. Which even though a shatchen also has the ability to do kedushin, but it's not the koyach of the shliach that is literally like the Mishlech. It's like you're a freelancer. You are a being unto your own, but you are doing something on my behalf. For example, which is not the case, which we say. To a Shliach, we say that the Shliach is kamoisa. He's literally like the sender on the 3 levels that we mentioned earlier, which isn't the case by a shatchen, by a matchmaker. We don't say that a shatchen of a person is like him. Shatchen beferish loy kamoisai. A shatchen is beferish. When I send a matchmaker, he's not like me. Elaka adam achar. He retains his separate beingness as another person. Sha'isa toiv l'sheni. That's doing a favor to his fellow, to his friend. Like we see it in the world. And actually, he brings over here a Shulchan Aruch. Look in Aruch 26, when he brings the concept, this idea that a shatchen sometimes could do the actual, can execute the kedushin itself, can give the ring to the girl in order to bring about the marriage, even when he's not a shliach. So he brings over here the lashon of Shulchan Aruch. Afilu loy menuhu shliach behedya. Even if he didn't appoint him specifically to be a shliach, elashagir loy daitoy. The man who's sending the shatchen revealed his will, his desire. That he desires that woman. And he said, you can betroth her to me. Really, all he asked was the shatchen to just make the betrothal. No, I'm sorry, not the shatchen. To make the what we call today when they become to get them engaged. That's the idea. He sent him to get, and the shatchen went and did more than what she was told. Without him ever appointing him, dangerous stuff. Okay, you appointed a shatchen to go and bring about the engagement of your daughter or the engagement of your son, and the shatchen actually went out and took the liberty to go ahead and do the kedushin. The kedushin is valid, and obviously that's not b'torah shlichus. Because if we know for certain that's what you would have wanted, the shatchen could do that. But that's the act of the shatchen, not the act of the person that the shatchen is being a shatchen for. So now, if these are the 2 possibilities regarding Eliezer, he's going to explain both reasons, the reasoning of why we should look at Eliezer as a shatchen and not as a shliach, which means Eliezer is acting and he has his own independence in this particular inyan, or do we look at Eliezer as being a shliach? So he's first going to give the reasoning of why we should accept that Eliezer was merely a shatchen but he didn't assume the role of being Yitzchak. Yetzi. Yes, we can say he was not a shliach of Avram, which would be kemoisai, like Avram Avinu, but rather like an independent being, like a shatchan. Like we see we can see in what happened. From this that we find that Eliezer was doing whatever he can to find an excuse that Avraham Avinu should turn to him to marry Yitzchak to his own daughter. And Avram said to him, B'ni Baruch, my son is blessed, and you're cursed. And the cursed cannot attach itself to the blessed. What's happening over here? Eliezer, we know, had a daughter, and I think her name was Ulai, right? And he wanted Yitzchak to be his son-in-law. So he made the suggestion, he hinted it. When he said Ulai, maybe, and he used the word Ulai, suggesting his daughter. And Avram dismisses it. And here you can see that Eliezer is not a shliach. Because a shliach is not working on his own interests. A shatchan, being that his entire, people that do shatchan is they get paid. In other words, there is a certain personal motivation. It's not, a shliach doesn't have anything. I am your agent. I'm now acting for your benefit, not for my own benefit. A shatchan acts for their own benefit. From this itself, that Eliezer is kind of sneaking in his own interests over here and trying to get Avram to marry his daughter. So you see that Eliezer is not in the mindset of the shliach. And even more specifically, and another Indian that would maybe perhaps point, not exactly, but to a certain degree maybe point that Eliezer is like a freelancer. He has his own independent being and doing something for someone else. It's from this that you see in the manner in which the shlichus came about, that Eliezer was not given direct orders of who and what and how to act. He was given a general idea, and then he had to figure it out on his own. First of all, it's not like when Yaakov sent his sons to Mitzrayim, Yaakov davened on their behalf. Here it's not that Avram davened on his behalf. He gave him a bracha, but he didn't daven on his behalf. Eliezer had to do his own prayer. And then he made up his own siman, his own sign. And then it was all miraculous. I don't know why the Rebbe puts that in. Because Avram didn't give him much specification. All Avram Avinu said, don't take a daughter from one of the girls of the Canaanites, but you should go to my family. That's it. The Rebbe is trying to say is you see that there's a lot of leeway, there's a lot of space for Eliezer to act on his own, which would be maybe to a certain degree an indication that Eliezer is acting as a shadchan. Now it's not absolute, because in the end of the Sikha we're going to see that the Rebbe is specifically following the route or the accepting the idea that Eliezer was a shliach. And yet even a shliach can have that independence that doesn't take away from a shliach. But what's more telling, that's why the Rebbe puts this only in brackets, what's more telling that Eliezer maybe was a shadchan and not a shliach was from the fact that Eliezer was sneaking in his own interests over here. In this that he said, maybe I have a daughter, and so on and so forth. Which, since he is from the very get-go and a being unto his own, he's not an agent, but he's being appointed as a shadchan. For that reason, once someone has his own personal self, so then they can mix in things that are not undesirable. Because it's not, in other words, when we say undesirable, I mean it's not purely committed and perfect for what needs to happen. Okay, so that's the reasoning where we might see and accept that Eliezer was a shadchan. But on the other side, flip the coin over. Let's see what seems to suggest that Eliezer was actually a shliach and acting as an agent in this whole situation, in which an agent means that his actions are the actions, or at least the actions, or even maybe deeper than that, his entire being is the shlichus, is the meshaleach, the one that's sending him, Avram Avinu or Yitzchak. So let's see on the other hand. First of all, let's take a look at Eliezer. Eliezer wasn't a guy off the street that was like, Avram went and met his neighbor and said, I hear you're going to Mesopotamia. I have a cousin there. Maybe you want to go into their house. He's taking who? He's taking his manager of all of his affairs. Guy that he has lots of servants, but he takes his chief butler, the one in charge over everything. So which means he's taking someone who's his most trusted person, which is indicating that he's someone who's completely and absolutely devoted to him. And so much was Eliezer in charge of Avram's household, he even was in charge of Avram's teachings. Okay? He was also watering the people, which means he was teaching people. That's why he's called Damesek Eliezer, because he was what's it called? Drawing water and pouring which are the teachings of Avram to other people. The Eved Avram, and he's the Eved of Avram. Asher Eved Melech, which the idea of an Eved of a king is a king. In other words, this is all implying, besides the fact that he's an Eved, because he's a servant, is indicating how much he is part of Avram himself. The Kambid came Divrei Avram. And now that's who he is even before he begins the Shlichus. And then when Avram Avinu eventually appoints him, when Avram appoints him and tells him to do so. Kiyam Eliezer hakol b'dio k'divrei Avram. Eliezer passes with flying colors. He actually gets the job done perfectly. Other than that first suggestion that he made that one time, which is kind of we might say a goof up, in which he's kind of, and Avram right away slams the door on that suggestion. Other than that, Eliezer is impeccable in his shlichus. So it's further indicating that he is totally devoted and committed to execute exactly because he doesn't have an independent being. Yisayim is even more than this. Avram is biyayal kach. To add to that, Avram places an oath on him. Now, usually, if you are giving a shatchin, you're not placing an oath. The idea that he's placing an oath upon him, in other words, he's taking more and more control over him, even more than his control of him in a regular situation. He's fully controlling him, and that's the idea that he's like an extension of him. Like it says, I'm going to place an oath upon you. Because of this, and for other reasons, Mr. Loimer is very likely to say that he was actually acting on behalf, as a shliach to betroth Rivka. The Yeshleimer we can say, now we can, the Rebbe is adding this, that Eliezer is a shliach. Muvan, we will also understand another proof from this that it says. Now the Rebbe is going to prove it from the amount of trust that Avram Avinu is entrusting with Eliezer. He's not just entrusting the shidduch, this marriage, but he's also entrusting with him his entire estate, his entire fortune. Everything that he has, he gave to him. It says in the pasuk, that Eliezer took 10 camels from the camels of his master, and he went, and all the wealth, all the goodies of his master in his hands. And as Mefarshim explained, it means that Avram basically gave him the keys to the safe, or gave him the combination, and told him, help yourself to whatever you need. So he gave him free reign. Now that's something you wouldn't do with a shadchan. If he's your agent and he's you, then okay. He holds everything. He gave him full permission to do as he sees fit. He doesn't even need permission. He doesn't have to call Avram Avinu every few minutes or text him or something like that and ask him, can I use this or can I use that? Nothing. He was the ruler over everything. Now, that's the way other Mefarshim learn, Ramban and the like. Rashi learns a little different. Rashi says that when he gave him and all of his goodies in his hands, means he gave a shtar matana. He actually, it's not that he gave Eliezer full reign to use all the money of Avram. But what he did was, he wrote him a gift, he gave him a gift document, he handed over all of his wealth to Yitzchak. So he's giving it to Yitzchak, not to Eliezer. But Eliezer is the one who's carrying this document. So based on this, he's not entrusting Eliezer with ownership over all of his property. But the Rebbe says, but even this itself is also an indication of tremendous trust. Why? Even though it's a present to Yitzchak, not to Eliezer, but still he's giving it to the trust of Eliezer. He's giving it over into his domain. And if Eliezer has the power to rip it up, or to do something like that, in the end you see that everything that Avram owns was in Eliezer's dominion. And here's the question: how can Avram Avinu give over all that he has to a person? I mean, how can you entrust one person? Imagine tonight, Hashem should bench us all. Someone wins the 1.6 billion lottery ticket. Okay, so will you give that lottery ticket over to someone? We would do a very serious question. Even your good friends and who you trust and who your cousin and your uncle and your brother is a different story, right? I don't even know, because you never know what they'll do with it. They'll claim it was theirs, a whole story, right? So to give over your entire fortune and everything into the hand of into a person, a stranger, you're not going to do that unless that person is you. So there we see that Avram Avinu, that new Eliezer is completely his. He was devoted 1,000%. Because he's servant. So when he sends him to do the shidduch for Yitzchak, he's not acting like a shatchan, like a matchmaker, who retains an existence onto his own. But rather he's a shliach. His entire mitzias is the mitzias of the sender, is the existence of the sender. So in a sense, Avram is able to leave over in his rishus, because as the Rebbe uses the term over here, and if he's leaving it over in his own rishus, he's not really transferring it. He's not going over to Eliezer because it's still in the rishus from Avram, because Eliezer is 1,000% still Avram, still one with Avram. There's no question in the matter. Okay, so now the Rebbe seems to prefer. There's more proof to say from various different things that Eliezer is acting as a shliach. Now, once we've established that, he's going to explain that a little better. Why did it require that Avram should get this done through a shliach? Why couldn't Avram really send the shadchan? Now we know that Eliezer is a shliach, but to make a shidduch, you don't have to send a shliach. You can send a shadchan. So there must be a reason why Avram is dafka doing it through a shidduch, through a shliach. Habir b'zeh. And the explanation in this is, Yuvim b'hagdim shayim l'neisefes. I'm going to ask another question. The Rebbe calls it a klutz kasha. Klutz kasha meaning it's such a simple question, and it's even a klutz can ask such a question. You don't have to be very, but yet sometimes because it's so simple and so obvious that people skip over it. We brought before from Rashi, at least from Rashi, that Eliezer transferred all the ownership. That Avram transferred all the ownership of all of his estate and all of his belongings, and he gave it over to Yitzchak. So what's the question? Even when it comes to regards to the mitzvah of tzedakah, which is a huge mitzvah, hadinhu, the rule is a person, even if you're giving tzedakah, a person should not make sacred or give away for tzedakah or whatever to all of his possessions. And someone who does that, he shouldn't think he's very religious and very, very good. He is over, he's transgressing what the pasuk says. It says, in Parshas B'chukoisai, when it talks about someone making hegdish, donating things to the temple and so on and so forth, it says, from all that you own, not all that you own. So if that's the case even for tzedakah, that you shouldn't give everything, you should leave for yourself, at least, something to live on. How is it that Avram gives all that he has over to Yitzchak? Even if he's giving it over to him then as a Yerusha. I mean, you see from Rashi that he gave it as a matana, as a gift. If the question would be, even if he's giving it as an inheritance, because Avram is not dying yet. He has many years, I'm going to see soon, he has many years to live still. So even that would be a question. But especially if he's giving it as a gift, even then too it wouldn't be understood. How much more so? On page 58 we go over. That they should want to send their daughter. Which means it wasn't Yerusha. It was it had a specific purpose. If it was so that to make Yitzchak to make the shidduch attractive, because it was he wanted that they should do the shidduch. You see, the shidduch was both a yichus shidduch and it was also a money shidduch. I can't contain myself sharing from you a beautiful story from Rabbi Yitzchak of Berditchev. Just 1 second. Rabbi Yitzchak of Berditchev once raised his eyes up to the Eibishter. There was a decree. He sensed there was a decree in heaven against livelihood, that Yidden Chas v'Shalom wouldn't have parnas. So Rabbi Yitzchak raised his eyes up to heaven and he said, I was on Rosh Hashanah, he said, Eibishter. He said, I don't understand, he says. Mele, he says, we're married. Hashem and the Jewish people are married. Right? So Hashem is the husband with the wife. He says, Mele, Mele, you did a shidduch with us. Why were we attractive to you? You did a sheina shidduch. You did a gezash shidduch. You did a yichus shidduch. You did a shidduch. We had beautiful yichus. By Matan Torah, we had an ancestry. We had Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sara, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. We had what to boast with. We had a lineage. But we on our end, we didn't do a yichus shidduch. What yichus do you have? You don't have a father. You don't have a sheina yichus that you can have. Why did we do the shidduch? What kind of shidduch we did? We did a geld shidduch. We did a money shidduch. Du hast, the pasuk says, Luak liak kesev liazav. We married you for your money. You have the money. You have the gold. So if now you're backing out on that, then there's the whole thing is incorrect. That was Rabbi Yitzchak of Berditchev's what do you call limud zchus for the Jewish people. But in any case, so if Avram Avinu is flaunting money over here, so he still doesn't have to give all the money. Even if Avram would have given a big chunk of his money, he's a great wealthy man. It was enough that people should be excited to send their daughter. And specifically, Avram was then 140 years old, right? Because Yitzchak was, it's 3 years after Akedas Yitzchak. Avram was 100 when Yitzchak was born, and Yitzchak was 37 by Akedas Yitzchak. So now Avram is 140 years old. And Avram is still going to be alive another 35 years, right? Because he lives to 175. So he still has a half a lifetime to live. He's got to care for himself in his old age. He still needs money for himself and for his family. What kind of family? Because Avram just got married and he had another 6 children. I think 5 or 6. He has now a whole bunch of children that he has to take care of. So even though we find later he doesn't give them a lot of his possessions, but he still has to take care of them when they were there. How could he give everything away for Yitzchak? Now, on the level of Chassidus, and if you get a little deeper, it's not really, the Rebbe says you can answer. We can explain it. This that we say that Yitzchak is the son of Avram, and Avram gave birth to Yitzchak. And the Chachamim say on that, that Yitzchak's face was a carbon copy of Avram. So if that's which means if physically that was, it was also spiritually. They're pnimius and they're avoida hemoya beklolis in general. Davar v'hemshech, they're one continuity. He says zel bezach. It's like the Rebbe once said about, I think more than once, that him and the shver this is einer, or bechlal, but it gave to all the rabbeim that it's one neshama. So in the sense, the same as with Avram with the 7 tzaddikim at the beginning, that it's one inyan. If Avram, so therefore it's not a transfer of money. It was, Avram and Yitzchak are one entity. So that could be an answer, but that would be b'pnimius. The Rebbe says, but that's not the pshat. They're all one. How are they one hemshech? Because they're all the chariot. And there's Hashem's chariot in the world during Avram's life is Avram. Then that chariot transfers over to Yitzchak, but it's one chariot. We still need to understand it on the simple level. So let's learn one more sif, and then we'll call it a day for today. The explanation. This is Gavaldik. The Siya Yitzchak ve'Rivka, the marriage of Yitzchak and Rivka, ha'achana l'nesuyim, which is v'hanasuyim arishayim. This is which includes the preparation for the marriage, and these are the first marriage haksuvim b'Torah. This is the first marriage that's discussed in the Torah as a marriage. Einam rak. I mean, even though it says that how Adam and Chava got married, but here we're talking about more of a marriage. There it says he brought her to Adam, but here we're talking about a marriage. So this marriage is not just an individual marriage. Yitzchak and Rivka are getting married. It's a very, 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 it's not an individual wedding, but rather it's the wedding of the Jewish people. These are the first wedding of the Jewish people. Avram and Sara also got married, but if we can say to a certain degree, Avram became Jewish at his bris milah. So this is after bris milah, because there's a certain degree of part of the gerus is the circumcision. So then this is the first true Jewish chasana. The Yisroel is that even more than this. This marriage contains the seed for the entire Jewish nation, because they're all coming from this child that's going to be born, who is Yaakov and Yaakov's family. In addition to this being Avram's personal simcha, in terms of his personal family, in addition to that, this marriage is indicating the marriage of the Jewish people. This marriage brought offspring, the ifshuru as hamshach kiyam am Yisroel, and enabled the continuity of the Jewish people atzav kol adayris until the end of all time. V'yesh loyma, we can say based on that, shalachein masar Avram al inyan zeh kol asher loy leYitzchak benoi. This is the reason why Avram Avinu dedicated his everything. He gave all of his possessions to Yitzchak. Since this is not an individual marriage between Yitzchak and Rivka. This is Nageya. This is touching upon the future of the Jewish people as a whole. And therefore, what's Avram Avinu? What's his identity? His identity is he is the patriarch of the Jewish people. He's the first patriarch. He is the nucleus of the Jewish people. He is the seed of all the Jewish people. And his businesses in this world is to bring about a nation that's the chosen nation that serves the Eibishter, that serves God and Yidden. And therefore, this is whose entire being is. So therefore, Avram needs to invest in this, his everything. For that reason, Avram Avinu is imbuing and investing in this his entire koyach. All that belongs to him. So it's not just his physical wealth, it's his entire being. He invested everything. That's why he made a shvuah. Shvuah means a very intense insertion. If Avram is acting as an individual father of Yitzchak, that even though a father wants to make wants a shidduch for his child and he wants to make it attractive and he gives his son, puts $1 million in the bank, but that's $1 million. That's not all that he owns. A part of it, maybe a lot, but a little bit he leaves over to himself. But since this marriage is the inyan achi klali, this is the most encompassing. This is his entire identity. This is his entire being. Is the head of the Jewish people. Hayehudi Arishin, the first Jew. Ein makom. There is, quite on the contrary, it wouldn't make any sense that he leaves anything out of it. Ein makom sheyashar chelek afilu prat achi katan shel Avram muvdal mazechas v'shalom. That something should remain out of it. L'chein nasan kol ashaloi. That's why he gave his all. He transmitted and invested his very being. The fact that he gave all the money was a consequence of something much deeper. He gave himself. He gave himself over. And automatically, if he gave himself over, he gave everything over. The Rebbe brings in Order 53 an example regarding to the question which he asked tzedakah. It says you're not allowed to give all your money for tzedakah. But the Alter Rebbe brings in Tanya, there's an exception. If a person feels that he has blemishes in his soul and he needs a tikkun for his nefesh because of sins, so the halacha is that he's allowed to give a lot of tzedakah, and even if he's giving way past chaimish, way past a 20%, and the Alter Rebbe says, because since he's doing it l'tikkun nafshay, so it's not worse than when a person chas v'shalom is ill and they need to see doctors and it's a huge medical expense, that a person goes ahead and he spends all of his money to save his life. Why? Because you're dealing with your very life. And you can't say, okay, you know what? For my life, I'm giving 70%, but 30% I have to leave over for other things. But this is your life. Without this, you're not alive. Same as with Avram Avinu. Without this marriage, there's no Avram. There's nothing left. There's not even. So therefore, all of himself, he puts into this marriage. And let's conclude just. The actual marriage is actually brought about through the power of Avram. Because Avram Avinu did everything leading up to make this marriage possible. Avram hoiledas Yitzchak. First of all, he brings him into this world. U'malas Yitzchak, and he gave him his circumcision. V'achkach nasa hashidduch b'poil al de'ashlichut shel Eliezer de Avram. L'cheinu ho yitzarech lahachnas b'zes kol hashaloi. So it's not only that Avram Avinu is excited to do that, he's the one orchestrating it, and since this is his entire being, he has to give it all that he has. We're just going to conclude with this last paragraph. Now we can see why Eliezer too Avram couldn't take an outsider and take him and make him a shatchen, or a point, or even Eliezer make him a shatchen. But rather, Eliezer has to act as a shliach, and not stam. He has to act as a shliach on the highest level of total bittul. Ela begeder shliach kamoised am shaliach Avram. Kishem why? Kishem shenasin as kol hashaloi tzrich Eliyas b'li shum prat mechutz lezeh. Just like in order for this to work, Avram Avinu himself is investing his entire existence into the shidduch. So the same is also understood to the one who is acting over here, with the agent who is going to make this happen. Specifically because Eliezer is also a part of Avram's fortune. So Eliezer is part of the fortune that Avram is putting into this investing. So, but since Eliezer is going to be a major player over here, Eliezer too has to be in it 100%. And if a person is a shatchen, they're not in it 100%, as we said before. Part of it is not in it, they're acting for their self-interests. But over here, he has to be given over his entire being. Even though he's going to have to act, as we're going to see soon, with his own mind, and he's going to have to make his own decisions, and Avram Avinu is not going to tell him every little thing of how to execute and how to do. But yet, in terms of his devotion and commitment, it's his entire being. It has to be like the Meshaleach. There can't be any space for anything else. He can't be like a shatchen who is an outsider. He has to be completely given over, because just like we see that Avram gave everything, because this is his entire being, Avram couldn't afford to have someone involved over here that's not in it 1,000%. This itself is an amazing Indian. That when you wonder why the Rebbe, for instance, instituted shlichus. So the real Indian of shlichus is when you're dealing with something that's negeya to your very, very being, it's your essence. Then you can't just have, Rebbe's people, great tzaddikim always had, those mekusharim, they were mekusher to them, chassidim, and so on and so forth, they were given over. But those rabbeim and those tzaddikim sent certain people for certain missions, but they didn't take the person's entire life and make them their shliach. This is a new concept, starting with the Friediger Rebbe and the Rebbe, where you had people. Why? Because when you're dealing with something that's negeya to your very, very essence of who you are and your entire being, and the responsibility of that can't be given over to someone who is 99% yours, and there's one Indian, one tiny bit that's not yours. Because then it's not it. You need someone whose entire being is yours. And that's the secret of a shliach. A shliach is someone who's, and more than ordinary, that we might say chassidim. In a sense, the Rebbe said, every chassid is a shliach. Yeah, but those that were appointed particularly on shlichus means that the commitment is 1,000%. And there isn't a prat and a detail in their life that's outside of shlichus. And if the shlichus is bringing Mashiach, as we're going to see soon, then of course it becomes the most all-encompassing, all-inclusive avodah, as we're going to see. So what we've established now is the root and the essence of appreciating this idea of Eliezer now acting as a shliach. And we're going to see in the next, in Perek Vav and in Perek Zayin, next week, where hopefully we'll finish next week, or even if we don't completely, but the Rebbe is going to explain the more ruchniistic inyanim of this. This is on the most physical note, that it is the future of the Jewish people, but then he's going to explain how it's not just the future of the Jewish people physically. The idea of this marriage is the purpose of creation and all of existence, and the realization and why it dafka has to work in this manner of shlichus, as we're going to see. Be'ezus Hashem. Tune in next week. Be'ezus Hashem, we're back to Wednesday. Everyone, we should merit already the complete and full revelation of Mashiach Tzidkenu now.